My girlfriend ended things with me to be with my closest friend. The split came in the form of a 3-minute phone call while I was taking my lunch break. Her name was Chloe. We had shared 5 years together. My best friend, or rather my former best friend, was Liam. We'd been inseparable since childhood. He was the brother I never had. When she told me she was leaving, she claimed she'd simply fallen out of love. A week later, they made their new relationship public on social media with a photo of them locked in a kiss, captioned, "Sometimes what you're searching for has been right in front of you all along." The initial weeks passed in a haze of fury and bewilderment. I gathered her belongings from our shared apartment and left them stacked on her parents' front porch. I blocked both of them across every platform. Our mutual friends found themselves awkwardly caught in the crossfire. Most offered lukewarm sympathies, but insisted on remaining neutral, which, to me, felt like its own form of betrayal. Liam sent me one lengthy, rambling text about how he couldn't suppress his emotions and how he hoped, someday, we might rebuild our friendship. I never responded. Silence became my only shield. About a month after the breakup, I noticed something alarming in my finances. Chloe and I had maintained a joint high-yield savings account. It was our future fund, where we'd been stashing money for a down payment on a house. I'd contributed the overwhelming majority, roughly 70 of the total, just over $35,000. I attempted to transfer my share into a new personal account, and my stomach sank. The balance read 12. 38. I pulled up the transaction history. 2 days after our breakup call, the entire sum $52.40 had been transferred out to a personal account. The withdrawal had been initiated by Chloe. I felt a chill. This wasn't merely a breakup, it was a robbery. They hadn't just stolen the future I envisioned with her, they'd stolen my actual tangible future. I captured a screenshot of the bank statement, clearly showing the transfer, the date, and the amount. It was all the documentation I required. I didn't call or text them, I didn't shout or plead. I contacted a lawyer. My attorney, a razor-sharp woman named Miss Gable, was stunned by the sheer boldness of their act. That same afternoon, she drafted a formal demand letter. It was dispatched via certified mail to both Chloe and Liam. The letter was concise. It stated the funds in the joint account had been earmarked for a mutual purpose that no longer existed, and that Chloe had unlawfully withdrawn the full amount without my consent. It demanded the immediate return of my contributed portion $35,168 within 10 business days, or we would initiate legal proceedings for conversion and unjust enrichment. They ignored it. 10 business days elapsed, no response. I instructed Miss Gable to file the lawsuit. The day they were formally served, my phone erupted. It was Liam. I answered. He was shouting, "Are you serious? You're suing us? After everything, you're trying to blackmail us for cash?" I remained quiet for a moment, letting him exhaust himself. "Liam," I said, my tone flat and even, "you and Chloe stole $35,000 from me. This isn't extortion. This is me reclaiming what's mine. You should have replied to the letter." He sputtered. "It was a joint account. She had every right to it." I replied, "Let the court decide that. Speak to your attorney, not me." And I hung up. Suddenly, our so-called neutral friends were bombarded with their side of the story. Liam and Chloe launched a smear campaign, portraying me as a vindictive ex, attempting to extort money to sabotage their newfound bliss. A few friends reached out, confused. I didn't argue or beg for understanding. I simply forwarded them the screenshot of the bank transfer. The facts spoke for themselves. Support for Liam and Chloe evaporated swiftly after that. Cornered by a lawsuit they stood no chance of winning, they capitulated. A cashier's check for the full amount arrived at my lawyer's office a week later. I had my money back. But the second betrayal carved a deeper wound than the first. Months drifted by. I focused on myself, hit the gym, reconnected with friends who had stood by me, and slowly began to feel human again. I was healing. Then, one Saturday afternoon, a knock sounded at my door. It was Liam and Chloe. They stood on my doorstep, clutching a bottle of wine, smiling nervously. It was the first time I'd seen them face to face since the breakup. My first impulse was to slam the door shut, but I didn't. I simply waited. "Can we speak with you for a moment?" Chloe asked, her voice gentle. I stepped aside and let them in. They hovered awkwardly in my living room. They delivered a polished, rehearsed apology about how things had unfolded, how they regretted the pain they'd caused, but insisted their love was genuine and undeniable. It was a performance full of, "We're sorry you were hurt," without ever acknowledging they'd actually done anything wrong. Then came their true motive. Chloe lifted her hand. She was wearing an engagement ring. "We're getting married," she announced, glowing. Liam draped his arm around her. "Man," he said, locking eyes with me, "it would mean everything to us if you'd stand beside me as a groomsman. Be part of the wedding party to show everyone we're still family." The sheer gall was staggering. They had betrayed me, robbed me, and slandered me to our friends. Now, they expected me to stand beside them, smile for the cameras, and serve as a prop in their fairy tale, a living emblem of their redemption. They didn't want a friend, they wanted absolution. I looked at their hopeful, expectant faces, and I smiled. "Wow," I said. "Congratulations." I'd be honored. The relief that washed over them was nauseating. They believed they'd gotten away with everything. But as they exited my apartment, laughing and celebrating, I knew the role I would play at their wedding wasn't the one they'd imagined. The months that followed were a masterclass in restraint. I portrayed the gracious, forgiving friend. I attended their engagement party and toasted their joy. I joined the groomsmen's group chat. I even flew to Vegas for the bachelor weekend, forcing smiles and chuckling at Liam's lame jokes. All the while I was scheming. My revenge couldn't be trivial. It had to be total. It had to be constructed from their own deeds, weaponizing their own words against them. I began digging. Chloe and I had used a shared cloud storage service for years to archive photos and documents. She'd never unlinked her devices. Her phone's message history, including deleted texts, was still syncing to an account I could access. It took me a weekend and some data recovery tools, but I uncovered it. A treasure trove of treachery. I found texts between her and Liam dating back nearly a year before our breakup. They began as flirtatious banter, then escalated into clandestine rendezvous. They detailed their affair in my own apartment while I was at work. They mocked me, my quirks, my family, my life. I found messages from the week of our breakup. Liam telling Chloe, "Just get it over with. The sooner you end it, the sooner we can be together." And Chloe's reply, "I will. Then we can finally grab that money and start our life." The theft of the down payment hadn't been an afterthought. It had been part of their blueprint from the start. I took screenshots of everything. I arranged them chronologically, crafting a timeline of their deception. I had dates, timestamps, and their own damning words. The evidence was airtight. As a groomsman, I was assigned a task. Chloe and Liam were both technologically inept, so they asked me to assemble the wedding slideshow. It was meant to be a sentimental montage of their baby photos and couple snapshots, set to their favorite songs. They handed me a USB drive packed with hundreds of carefully curated, joyful images. "You know us best," Liam said, slapping me on the back. "Make it unforgettable." I smiled and assured him I would. I spent weeks on that slideshow. I purchased professional video editing software. I created 2 versions. Version A was the one they anticipated, a saccharine 10-minute reel of their grinning faces. Version B was my magnum opus. It opened identically with baby photos and childhood shots, all set to soft, romantic melodies. But at the 2-minute mark, the music dissolved, the screen faded to black, and my evidence began to unfold. The wedding day arrived. It was a lavish, costly spectacle at an upscale country club, funded primarily by Chloe's father, a kind man I'd always respected. I performed my role flawlessly. I helped Liam adjust his tie. I posed for photos with the other groomsmen. I walked down the aisle beside a bridesmaid, smiling for the cameras. During the ceremony, I watched Chloe and Liam at the altar, exchanging vows, and I felt nothing. At the reception, the atmosphere was jubilant. Speeches were delivered, toasts were raised. Then, the DJ announced it was time for the special slideshow presentation. He handed me the microphone. I rose to my feet. I just want to say how thrilled I am to be here celebrating two people who are so perfectly matched, I said, beaming at the radiant couple. They asked me to put together a little something to showcase their journey. I hope you all enjoy it. I walked toward the large projection screen, laptop in hand. I plugged in the HDMI cable. I'd instructed the DJ to dim the lights. The room plunged into darkness, and the slideshow began to play. The first 2 minutes were flawless. Baby photos of Chloe, goofy teenage shots of Liam. Their earliest couple pictures. Their families murmured appreciatively. Liam and Chloe clasped hands, gazing at the screen with tears glistening in their eyes. Then the romantic music faded. The screen went black for a heartbeat. A new title card materialized in stark white text, "The Real Journey." The first screenshot faded in. It was a text from Liam to Chloe, dated 8 months before our breakup. "He's an idiot. He'll never suspect a thing." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Before anyone could react, the next slide appeared. A text from Chloe. "I feel a little guilty, but then you touch me and I forget all about him." Slide after slide, their betrayal unfolded across the massive screen before 150 stunned guests. Their secret messages, their cruel jabs, their scheming. The room fell into a tomb-like silence, broken only by the soft click of the slideshow advancing. I included the text where they plotted to take the money. Then, as the grand finale, I displayed the screenshot of the $50,240 bank transfer. The date glaringly visible, just 2 days after she walked out on me. The final slide was simply a photo from their engagement shoot, but this time overlaid with the caption, "Congratulations to the happy couple." Then I restored the audio. Their chosen sappy romantic song thundered through the speakers once more. The lights flared back on. Chaos erupted. Chloe shrieked, a shrill, unhinged wail. Liam stood frozen, his face as pale as the linen tablecloths. Her father leapt to his feet, face flushed crimson with fury, glaring first at them, then at the screen. Guests whispered, pointed, whipped out their phones. I didn't linger to witness the fallout. I calmly unplugged my laptop, slipped it into its case, and strode toward the exit. As I passed their table, Liam lunged at me, but the other groomsmen restrained him. I didn't even glance his way. I walked out of the reception hall, through the manicured gardens of the country club, and into the crisp night air. My phone was already vibrating, but I didn't check it. I climbed into my car, started the engine, and drove away. The role I played wasn't that of a groomsman. I was the narrator, and I had just told their story in their own words.